Sleeves by Tame Dog. Tame Dog by Sleeves. They're magic card sleeves. They're from a Colorado local yokel. Why are my sleeves still so clean after using them so much? They must be sleeves from Tame Dog. I can't believe I'm getting quality this good. They're 100% good, but 15% off if you use code BASICS. Wildcat could never make these sleeves. I heard they're made by a real dog. The quality is so good. Continuity errors. Fellow Colorado-based magic creator. But they create sleeves, not content. I'm Eric from MTG Basics.
But the main thing we're often trying to do with Shang-Chi is have a tutor for or cast.
MTG Basics. Keep it basic.
Hello, everybody. My name is Pigeon from MTG Basics, and I'm going to be joined by the awesome, amazing Joe Holland from 504. What's up, Joe? How are you doing today?
Great, Pigeon. Glad we're doing this. How are you doing?
Doing wonderful. Today we're going over a pretty cool deck tech that you and I have been working on kind of in the shadows for a little while. Shang-Chi, Master of Kung Fu. For those who haven't seen this card before, it's pretty good in a lot of decks, and we think it's good enough as a commander to potentially play. It is a 2-drop 2/2 that says you may activate abilities of creatures you control as though those creatures had haste, and then tap, add 2 mana of any one color, spend this to activate abilities of creature sources. What drew you to brewing up this deck originally, Joe? Because you were the one who showed it to me.
Yeah, basically, Shang-Chi started showing up. It was one of the most hyped cards coming out of the Marvel set, for sure, and with good reason. I mean, it enables things in like Sisay and Rogdrass that weren't really possible before, or at least weren't possible while still having like high card quality. So, when it was spoiled, I was like, man, this is legendary. So maybe it's worth trying as a commander, because the thing is, it kind of recontextualizes the mono green strategy, where at least from Turbo, right?
Yeah.
I think this could easily become the de facto mono green Turbo list going forward, just because of what Shang-Chi enables from the command zone that the other options really don't. Like Yisan or Selvala or Yeva.
Shia.
Right, Ashaya. They're good at other things, but they don't break the rules the way that Shang-Chi does. And he was looking strong enough in other lists that I thought it might be worth playing mono green to have access to him out of the command zone. And just started looking for cards that synergized with him when you always have access to him, which obviously we're playing a lot of. And
Just a few creatures, right?
Yeah, after like running through my initial list, or building my initial list after doing some Scryfall searches and stuff, and I started play testing it, and kind of found a pretty compact line that we can get into later, but we kind of started shaping the list around playing towards that line. And a lot of the decisions we've made as far as changes have been refining, kind of finding that line, or playing, towards that sort of
that
strategy
pattern.
Yeah,
exactly. I totally agree. We'll get into it pretty shortly, but the main thing we're often trying to do with Shang-Chi is have a tutor for or cast Formidable Speaker. The really cool part is that you get the untap immediately because of Shang-Chi, and you can use the Shang-Chi mana to use it. So you can untap things like Gaea's Cradle, dorks that make multiple mana, and then you automatically get a tutor as well. So you can either keep chaining Formidable Speaker loops with something like Wirewood's Symbiote, or you can just find a win con, something like Temur Sabertooth, to keep bouncing your creatures over and over again, or the mana dork, something like Circle of Dreams Druid, to make the mana to keep going. There's a lot of intricate lines we'll get to later, but it's kind of just focused on this really amazing tutor card, Formidable Speaker, that does all of it and is an elf. Notably is an elf, which is very relevant for this deck, you'll learn. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of beginning origins of the deck. We can start looking at all the card choices, the easy stuff, the hard stuff, the weird stuff. Let's get into it.
sure.
Really easy dorks. I'm not gonna go over too much. Elvish Spirit Guide, Arbor Elf, Bird's Paradise, Boreal Druid, Halfling, Mystic, Finhorn Elves, Llanowar Elves. These ones are very, very basic. They just add mana or untap a forest for Arbor Elf. Get you on the ground running. This is almost always your turn one plan. You want this or like a Soul Ring or something to get out early Shang-Chi and other dorks. Because remember that when you cast a dork with Shang-Chi out, it immediately pays itself back, which is very good. There's a few of like the weirder cards, not as weird here, but like Allosaur Shepherd for protection, all of your green spells. That's really easy as well. Elvish Reclaimer is a pretty interesting one that I've been tutoring a lot recently because you can immediately use the Shang-Chi ability to pay the 2 and tap it to find your Cradle. I've actually tutored this card a lot recently. I don't know about you, Joe, but finding that Cradle immediately is very, very good, even if it's tapped.
Right. When you have access to Speaker, sometimes finding the Cradle can be your outlet to use with Speaker as your big mana thing to untap. So even just putting it into play tapped can be enough if you already have a developed board.
Exactly. And there's a lot of other things like we'll get to in a second. Magus of the Candelabra, another pretty important semi-combo piece that is also just good value. Untapping Cradle or your Ancient Tombs or your lands that tap for 2. As well as just filtering mana from Shang-Chi into regular mana because you can use it to do so. Very, very good.
Yeah, I think
sorry, go.
there's no, you're good. I think that there's kind of like a category of cards as far as if we're looking at the one drops initially, where you have the mana dorks that are just tap for mana on their own. Obviously, they're mana neutral once you have Shang-Chi in play, and otherwise they're acceleration on turn 1. And then we have Proclaimer, Tree Speaker, Candelabra, Arachi, which are all ways to make Shang-Chi mana usable the turn you play him. So
Yes.
you don't kind of have to take a break to play Shang-Chi. You still play him. It's like he's free because you spend the mana right away. And
Especially
then
something like Jiraga or Rochi, right? Because that actually just makes regular mana immediately, and then you don't have to do some weird other things. You just go, cool, I have green now, like regular green.
Same with
Very-
Magus as long as you have 2 lands in play.
Exactly. But yeah, Draga's a pretty easy one. It just says level up, and then it adds green, so it pays the 2 Shang-Chi mana into green. It can also somewhat relevantly make all your elves tap for green, but I've never had to do that yet. I don't know if you have the.
I
Maybe.
haven't gone to level 5 yet.
This is a really cool one that I think you or maybe Dexter found. Llanowar Mentor. It says pay green, tap, discard a card, put a 1/1 elf druid creature token named Llanowar Elves into play that has that green because it's Llanowar Elves. Also filters the Shang-Chi mana, but makes another body and another elf. Which is really great. Like I said, Orochi is just pay green mana, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. This just automatically changes the Shang-Chi mana into regular green. You don't have to think about it too much. It's just a filter. Quirion Ranger, another one of the good, I would say, combo pieces that we use in a lot of different ways in this deck. Bouncing a forest, untap target creature, and you can only use it once each turn. You can do really cute stuff, obviously, with the Shia, which goes infinite because you untap something and bounce itself because it's a forest and play it over and over again. Or you could do stuff like untap your Shang-Chi, untap your, Circle of Dreams Druid, your dorks. It can untap the Formidable Speaker itself to untap a guy's Cradle instead. There's a lot of really good synergies here, and we play so many forests in the Yavimaya that it's just very good. Very, very, very good.
Yeah, another card that doesn't show up in the creatures, but is one of the most important creatures in the deck is Dryad Arbor.
Yes.
And sometimes, because your Dryad Arbor has haste, picking it up, like if you have a Badger Mole Cub, for example, can be even better than picking up a normal forest because you get to replay it and tap it for 2.
Exactly. There's a lot of weird cutesy synergies that you'll see, especially if you have Yavimaya in play. Same thing, right? I play my guy's Cradle. Last turn, I bounce it because it's a forest, and I play it again this turn for even more mana. There's a lot of cool stuff. Uvenwald Tracker's a kind of interesting one we're testing. It immediately works with Shang-Chi as well, but it says target creature you control fights another target creature for 2 and tap. So you could just, again, tap it immediately, use the Shang-Chi mana to fight something that's annoying on the board. This means you can now creature tutor for ways to blow stuff up. I think that's pretty relevant a lot of the time. That's kind of the problem I have in games with their stacks. Not so much getting rid of the other stacks pieces, the creature stacks pieces. And that's been a big thing for me.
Right, having something that you can just get off your first Yisan activation, for example, or just fine for a low cost with an X creature tutor to where you're not spending all of your mana just to get this thing in play. And Shang-Chi allows it to be activated immediately, so you can solve a problem right away.
Exactly. Very, very cool one. Wirewood is almost interchangeable in the way of style of play as a Korean, but it does bounce an elf, which gives you more of the lands with Speaker rather than bouncing a forest. It also untaps any creature, and it's also once per turn. This also gives you cool things with something like, again, a mana dork, a ramp, something that you need to tap a lot of mana for. You can bounce it again, play it again, add even more mana rather than just something like Speaker. There's very many lines of play with this card. It's very utility driven. It's very good for a 1-drop. I'd say one of the most important cards in the deck as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, sometimes it feels like you're untapping 2 creatures with it because you pick one up, replay it, and then untap something else as well.
Yeah. It basically is a tap 2, right? Because again, they all have haste. This is the very synergistic, haste-enabled creature deck. It's very, very, very cool. Another one of the best creatures in the deck, in my opinion, is Badgermole Cub. This does so much, not only giving you another creature for your Earthbend, makes all of your dorks tap for mana, including Shang-Chi, and now adds a green mana, a regular green mana. It's the same thing as like Kinnan or Delighted Halfling. It doesn't add riders, it just adds the regular green mana that you were making, which is really cool. We'll get to another card very similar to this, which is we also agree is one of the best cards in this deck.
Yeah, this effect is insane in the deck.
Super, super busted. Another one we've been testing it, I think will be good enough current meta and where we're playing it is Collector Oof. We have very few artifacts, which we'll get to later. There's 5 artifacts in a Marvin, so I think the diversity of game plan is you're usually turboing, but if you need to stop other turbo players that are faster than you, or they're on Necropotence, or they're have a Smothering Tithe, a bunch of mana out, you can slam a Collector Roof and be a little bit easier to play the game and continue along your game plan.
Yeah, just having a couple high impact silver bullets with such density of creature tutors in our deck makes a lot of sense. This is impactful enough that it makes the cut, I think.
I'll let you talk about this one because, man, do I love this card, but I'll talk too much about it.
So Duskwatch Recruiter, it's kind of, you may have seen it before in any green deck that's trying to make infinite mana and has like a creature-based win line. But what's really great about it is that you can spend the Shang-Chi mana on it. It's also a nice thing to tutor up when maybe your opponent is threatening a counterspell and you say, well, what if I get a Duskwatch Recruiter? Because it's kind of unassuming, but once you're generating, 9 to 15 mana, then you get just so much action just out of this, one little 2-drop.
Spin, 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 spin. We've both been Rog Thrust boys, and we're accustomed to spinning our wheels. This is the same thing for this.
And also, so much. When you have access to like Wirewood Symbiote, Quirion Ranger, sometimes over the course of a turn cycle, you untap a large amount of mana on each person's turn, and then on each turn you get to activate the Duskwatch Recruiter.
Yep.
Sometimes on the off chance that it gets flipped, it also makes your creature spells cost 1 less on the back, which can be relevant, but we're definitely playing it for the front. If it had no back, it would probably just be better. But
I agree.
It can come up.
The one cost reduction has been relevant once, and I forgot about it entirely, and I should have remembered about it because I didn't ever expect it to flip, and it did, and I was like, crap. Oopsies. But I don't think it's going to happen almost ever. Another one of the best dorks in the deck is Fanatic Aronis. This is normally just a 2-drop, add 1 mana for tap ability. So in theory, it looks kind of weak because it's worse rate than all the normal dorks. But the really cool thing about it is if you control a creature power 4 or greater, you can add 4 mana. And the great part about Shang-Chi's ability says activated abilities of creature sources. So this includes eternalizing creature from your graveyard. And you can use 2 of the mana if you've discarded the Fanatic, something like a Survival Affinist or a Fauna Shaman or a Speaker, to be able to use 2 of the Shang-Chi mana to make a body that also taps for 4 immediately, which is really cool because it makes it a 4/4. This is one of the most interesting lines I've seen that we've talked about.
You might think that it's like pretty rare that this will find its way into your graveyard, but because you're such a formidable Speaker deck, if you discard the Fanatics of the Speaker, that practically wins the game on its own. We also play Fauna Shaman and Survival of the Fittest itself. So both of those can initially find the Fanatic and then discard the Fanatic to get it in the graveyard, find whatever else we're looking for, and then the Fanatic's ready to be eternalized by Shang-Chi, and then basically be mana neutral, if not positive, like if we didn't have another use for the mana from Shang-Chi right away. So this card is unassuming, but comes up a lot. You're basically never unhappy to draw it, and it's always one of the most relevant cards in your setup.
I agree. Final Shaman is super easy. It just says it's a creature that you pay green and tap to be survival fittest. To discard a creature card, real different creature card from your hand, and put it into play. You can't abuse as much as a regular survival per se, because you can't activate it a bunch of times unless you untap it, but still very, very relevant, and it's creature tutorable, which is huge.
Yeah, I think, if you have a bunch of creatures in hand, you can like go find like the Wirewood Symbiote or the Quirion, then untap the Fauna Shaman, then discard another creature, go get the next card, maybe Marvin, untap it
Do it
again. You
again.
can kind of build your own survival of the fittest, if you just want to get a lot of these pieces in play all at once. Because a lot of times people are like, okay, you can have mana, but it's the action that we don't like. And then having these kind of like army in a can type cards is really nice in the list.
The next card is very relevant, and I would say, I think, I've been saying this a lot, like maybe the second best card in this deck is Murderous Mimic. Because of how both Quirion Ranger and Wirewood work, like you were talking about, you can use their abilities on themselves and then use the abilities on Marvin as well if you have it out and the other creature out. So you get to do a little bit more abuse on those, synergies, untaps, and bounces. It also just has any activated ability of any other thing that has a tap ability. You can use all of these immediately. It's very, very good. And it's just a 2-drop. So easy to cast.
Yeah, sometimes in like the more puzzling lines of the deck where you're like, okay, I would tutor for this, but I've already used my symbiote this turn, so looking for a way out. Sometimes Marvin can give you that re-up of that ability where you get to do it again. And anytime you get to like play Marvin, use the symbiote ability again, and tap Marvin for like 4, 5, 6 mana, it just feels like the best card in your deck.
Feels very broken, and I think that's because it is very good in this deck. Besides that, we've got a few more dorks. I'll go over a little more quickly. Priest of Titania, very relevant that it says elves in play, not that you just control. I've had many times where my opponents think it makes 3 or 4 mana, but it makes 7 because there's a Kinnan or some Deathrite Shamans or whatever it is. Very, very good card. Again, 2 mana to make potentially lots. We have so many elves in this deck we can go over later, but very good. Seaguar Skybreak's an interesting one that says untap target creature. Doesn't say other target creature, so you can do some cute stuff with what we'll get to later is Legolas's quick reflexes. You can LQR this creature and then board wipe because you untap itself a bunch of times, and then the ability deals 2 damage to the creature you want. Very, very cool, and untaps things like your Circle of Dreams Druids, your Fauna Shamans, your Yisans, your tutors, or your extra mana, basically.
Yep. It's kind of like a Swiss Army knife where it just helps you double up on what you're doing with your other cards in your setup.
Exactly. Very, very good. This is an interesting one that I think is very silly, but also very good. Chomping Changeling is a 3-drop shapeshifter changeling. That is a 1/2. It says, when it enters the battlefield, destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment. How do you feel about this card, Joe?
It's adorable, but it's it's essentially our Reclamation Sage, where it'll answer things like Curse Totem, or just if you want to play like a diplomatic game where you're like, okay, I can blow up Arista here, things like that. But there's a number of things that might be troublesome, like a Blind Obedience or there's one Canonist, like various things that might slow us down. It's just good to have this tutorable way to get rid of an artifact or enchantment. And it just happens to be every creature type, so which is relevant for like
super good.
One other card in the deck. It just being an elf is mostly what's important. But
get that Priest of Titania count up. Things like your Quirion and Wirewood elves and stuff. Very important. Very good.
Yeah, you can pick it up with Wirewood Symbiote. Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. So
we got Gaia's Cradle of a Creature, Circle of Dreams Druid, another phenomenal card, another elf, super relevant. You'll see that there are so many elves in this deck. Easier to tutor, easier to get out when you have more elves, and then just add to the synergies. This is something I'm tutoring a lot of the time, especially if I'm already speakering. Sometimes I need my own cradle, and if I don't have the actual cradle, it's harder to get in play than just like something Microspawn or whatever. But this is also just a body, so it's good. Very, very,
Yeah,
very volatile or versatile card. Does so much.
it's the most explosive dork in the deck for sure.
Absolutely. We got Dose in the Falling Leaf. This is like our defense grid, right? Because we can creature tutor it so easily. It just says players can only cast spells during their own turns. So instead of being able to pay mana, even you just can't cast spells unless it's your turn, which is a little scary sometimes. I wouldn't recommend slamming it if you're not confident that you're going to get there, or if someone's showing you a silence. You probably should cast a Dosin, but very, very good card, and a lot of time catches people off guard, I think, because none of the other green decks in the format really play Dosin anymore. Being able to just actually put it into playoff of a tutor, and then everyone's like, what? And then you just win the game is very strong.
Yeah, it's definitely a risky spell to put on the stack, but when you're creature tutoring it directly into play, it feels a lot safer.
Also, this next card has very good synergies with Dosin. Eladamri Corvital. I haven't
Corvectal?
Corvectal, or said the last part.
Yeah, it's like a word for general, I believe.
Is another elf. It says you may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may cast creature spells from the top of your library, and then you can pay green, activate tap, return or tap on 2 untapped creatures you control. Reveal a card from your hand or the top of your library. If you reveal a creature this way, put it onto the battlefield to activate only during your turn. This is another thing they can't respond to if it is resolving. Then you've put your Dosin into play, and there's no priority for them to do anything. I can obviously do a lot more than that, but has good synergies with specifically Dosin. Very, very good card.
Yeah, it's just also another, similar to Duskwatch Recruiter, like kind of card advantage engine, where sometimes you tutor this or just have it in your hand, maybe on a low mole or something, and we have such high creature density. You see 49 creatures in our deck. I mean, half of our deck is creatures, so half the time you're just playing creatures off the top for free, and even if you don't necessarily have the mana to cast him, you can just activate his ability. It is important that it's only during your turn, but it's like Wish Claw, like it's instant speed. If this was
in your end step
during any player's turn, I feel like it would be another one of the most tutored cards in the deck. But
absolutely, if we could do this on anyone's turn, Joe, I think we'd have far more leniency in passing the turn far more often.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, very, very good. Another elf too, if I didn't say that. Elvish Archdruid, it gives other elves you control +1/+1, and then adds green for each elf you control. So this one's not quite a Titania, but another very good elf effect. I have many games where I have 4+ elves by turn 2 or turn 3, and this is just another like battery, right? You have so much mana from it. You can untap a bunch of times with Speaker or Seeker Skybreak, some things like that. Synergistic.
Yeah, and sometimes the +1/+1 comes up too. Usually in the face of
beats, dude.
like Bowmaster or Mayhem Devil as well. Just having a little more durability on your important elves is nice.
Feels very good. No, I think at least something I've experienced. I don't know about you, Joe. I have had to beat people up far too often so far playing this deck. If there's like a curse setup or something, I'm like, all right, swing 20, and they're like, what? Oh, that's a lot. And I'm like, it's elf ball, man.
Yeah, I'm just gonna put all my creatures in play and start attacking.
That's all I can do. Elvish Harbinger is an awesome one. It's a 3-drop 1/2 that says when it enters, you may search your library for an elf card, reveal it, and put it on top, then shuffle. It also adds for 1 of any color, so it pays 1 of the 3 of its mana back immediately. Almost always, again, finding either Speaker or my outlets if I already have the other pieces in play. Does so much, and synergizes also well with Eladamri because you can immediately cast it off the top, things like that.
Right.
There's a lot of amazing synergies you'll recognize with this deck without things we're saying. Like, I recommend you test it out and see some cool stuff for yourself as well.
Yeah, you started playtesting some hands with this deck. There's a lot of emergent synergy that, I mean, we didn't even necessarily think of while we were putting the cards together. But as we've been playing the deck more, it's like, oh, have you seen this? Just meshing each other. Like, also this interaction exists, and there's all kinds of little things in mono green that we've been learning.
Oh yeah,
especially when all your creatures have haste, right? So that's even mono green experts in the past haven't really been able to think about things in this context before, where it really changes a lot of cards, which is why it's such an exciting new deck.
I think the biggest thing for me is when mono green players will like just talk about it with us, right? And they're like, oh, Query and Ashaya works immediately with anything because they're all hasty, and I'm like, including the dork itself, including the
I mean, if you just have a Llanowar Elves with Shang-Chi, Query, and Ashaya, the
Good for
Quarian
the
can
mana.
just actually tap itself, pay for itself.
Mhm.
And if you have, I mean, you don't even need a mana dark, right? You just need a Shia or Shang-Chi.
Yep.
That's it. So
You don't even
it's
need a Letter Elves, Joe,
no, you
because
don't.
your
No, you
Ashaya
don't.
taps
Right. A
itself.
Shia just taps for
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
exactly. It's
yeah.
so disgusting. Everything about it is so disgusting.
Yeah, the
But that's
Ashaya
like something
lines.
that caught them off guard. They're like, "Oh, you could do even more than we could do." It's like, what?
Mhm. Yeah, Shang-Chi is
Very
crazy.
Got Eternal Witness, good return synergies. There's a lot of time where if you do hit a counter spell, you want things back, and has some lines with stuff like, getting your finale back if you've already used it, getting good things that you don't have access to many of, something like a Chomping Changeling or another removal spell back from the graveyard. Very, very helpful, especially when you could creature tutor it. These are all things I'm going to say for all of them, but being able to creature tutor it all gives you so much synergy. It's a toolbox deck, really. And
Yep.
then the main bread and butter Formidable Speaker, I've already talked about it a little bit, but it is truly what you're tutoring a lot of the time, if not most every time. The only time I'm ignoring speakers if I have the other half of combo in play and I'm just tutoring something else and I put the combo together. You can bypass it, but you generally shouldn't.
Mm. It kind of feels like that World Breeze color where this is the de facto tutor target unless you just already have it in your hand.
Exactly.
It just does so much. It's like a ritual and a tutor. It kind of is like the Jessica's Will for Ral kind of
Oh,
thing,
yeah.
where it's just, okay, this is just everything I want in one card. So this is kind of what I'm prioritizing every game.
It's like a lot of the farm decks saying that they're tutoring Tithe of Aristic right now. This is our tutor every time though. Like there's very, very little time where I'm not tutoring this, or a way to get this after the first tutor or something. Like, tempting.
Yep.
Very broken card, very good card.
Important thing about this card, especially when you're going to combo with it, is you do need cards in hand to discard to it.
Yes.
And running out of cards in hand comes up a lot. But we do have two of our other main prioritized cards actually put cards back in your hand. So
Both Wirewood and Korean Ranger.
exactly.
Both phenomenally helpful in this scenario where you need cards. That's we'll still be talking about more about Speaker, but that's it for now. Generous Patron. This is a 3-drop elf that says when it enters support 2, support says put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 other target creatures. And then the other line of text says whenever you put 1 or more counters on a creature you don't control, draw a card. Notably not a May. Is also just something that draws us cards. This is 3 mana, draw 2, buff your opponent's stuff by +1/+1. This is almost never relevant. Maybe if you want their Esper to be bigger, so you have to pay 2 for it. I don't know. But it's just draw. Like you can repeat it multiple times if you bounce it, and you can draw more cards. It's helpful. It also gives permanent counters on all your stuff if you're comboing, but if you're winning, I don't think it's a problem.
Yeah, it's also an elf. So you can pick it up. And
Big elf.
yeah, it does need your opponents to have 2 creatures in play collectively to draw 2.
Yeah. It can't be the same one, notably. Very true. We got Shaman of the Forgotten Ways. This was kind of a more recent addition we've been talking about for a while. We swapped it over Infectious Bite because it seems like a little bit of a more consistent win con. It is a 3-drop human shaman. It is a 2/3 that says add 2 mana of any combination of colors into your mana pool. You may only spend this mana to cast creature spells. And the most relevant part on it is the Formidable. Funny enough, Formidable. 11 mana, tap. And then the other part is Biorhythm if you control total power 8 or greater on creatures. Biorhythm, for anyone who doesn't know, it says each player's life total becomes the amount of creatures they control. So you kill all their things and then activate the Biorhythm ability and they die because they have no creatures. You can do this at instant speed. You can do this on your opponent's turns. This is the little bit more relevant reason I think this is important. Also,
it
if you
wins
have a lot of
through
mana early. Oh, good.
Yeah, it like wins through ring protection and it wins through your Angel's Grace to where when you go to clean up, their life total 0 and it rechecks and ends the game without having to pass turn. So even if you're in time in a tournament or whatever, they will still die before your turn ends. So
I think the fact that, at least for me, the fact that I can creature tutor this, and if I just have a lot of mana early, I just go, cool, I'm at 5, you're at 1, you're at 1, you're at 0, and I just randomly kill players, and they definitely can't attack into me because I've got a bunch of dudes, is actually something that is somewhat relevant in this deck. Especially if I just like fight their other stuff or they don't have any creatures. If I have a plethora of mana, I just activate this, and they're just dead. Like, that is super randomly relevant, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a nice angle.
Oh yeah. We got Ys on the Wanderer Bard, another one of the best cards for this deck, in my opinion. 3-drop 2/3 that says pay 3 mana, tap, put a verse counter on Yisan, and then search your library for a creature card with mana value equal to the number of verse counters on it on the battlefield. Not less than or equal to, has to be equal to. There's so many synergies, especially on the first one, where you're getting something like a Wirewood or a Quirion Ranger, and then untapping the Sun to get a 2-drop. That 2-drop might be Marvin Murmur's Mimerick, you do it again. It might be Seeker Skybreak, you do it again. Collector Roof, even. Like, there's so many things you do from the 1 to 2 to keep going off more Yisans. And then once you get to the 3-4, you're just winning the game, and you find your piece that you need right then and there.
Yeah, this is another way to put Dosan in play. If you have enough mana, you're just like, 1 gets an untap, 2 gets an untap, 3 puts in Dosan. Now y'all are silenced.
Yeah. It a lot of the time I think resolves on 3 as well, because it looks like you're getting Speaker, right? And then all of a sudden you have the Dosan, or something even scarier, and they're just like, oh, I didn't expect that. We're dead. Oopsies. What do we do?
Yeah, it's also big. I think that if you were to look at, if you're a cEDH head, and you look at this deck, you're like, okay, this is all sorcery speed. Obviously, it's mono green, where it's like, this is one of our important instant speed tools. It's where we get to have agency through the turn cycle by keeping our Yisan up.
Putting in a Collector Roof now at instant speed is something I'm looking forward to doing, and I think it will screw people over far more than they understand. When there's just an oof in play and you can't respond and you didn't expect it, that catches you like miles ahead, like out of the way. Mm-hmm. Very, very, very good. Karametra's Acolyte is another mana dork. It says 4 mana, 1/4, add green for your devotion to green. This is pretty dang good. It adds far more mana than it should a lot of the time. Same with something like Circle of Dreams Druid or Priest of Titania. This isn't the one I'm usually tutoring for, but sometimes it's better than the other options, surprisingly, just because of pips or something like that. Or like having enchantments or artifacts in play that are green, things like that.
Yeah, sometimes your devotion is greater than your elves, and then sometimes it's also just greater than your creatures too. So
if everything has 2, pips in it, it's going to be more than your creatures. Very, very good card. Magus of the Order is a funny card I didn't really know existed before you showed me this deck. It is natural on a creature. It says 4-drop, pay 1, tap, sacrifice it and another green creature. Search your library for a green creature card, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Another instant speed tutor. This does not say on your turn. This does not say sorcerer speed. This just says put any green creature into play if you sack it and one other green creature. Very, very, very volatile, or versatile. Again, I keep saying volatile. Good card.
Yep, it's another one that's powerful to keep up through the turn cycle when things are getting weird.
Absolutely. Another instant speed one. What does this one do, Joe?
Man, this is Skyshroud Poacher. This is a classic rebel for 2 and 2 green, 4 mana. It's a 2/2 rebel. It's a human. And you can pay 3, tap it, search your library for an elf card, and put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. So, obviously, we've been going through the creatures. There's a huge focus on elves. A lot of our utility creatures are elves. Obviously, Formidable Speaker's an elf. This is one that just once it's in play, you get to push like 3 times in a row because the access it gives you your deck. Obviously, you can use it right away with Shang-Chi, and you can use his mana to activate it. So, it's proven to be one of the strongest cards.
I agree. And it kind of like we were saying earlier, sometimes your opponent's like, what are you going to get off this? I'm going to, counter it. You can be more reasonable. You don't have to get, the scary combo piece you were going to get. Now you can get something more value. You can be, I can get anything. Half my deck is elves, man. And they're like, just don't get these 3 things. And then you get something else that, wins or whatever else. It's very, very
right.
Yeah. Selling Mycospawn, very played now. cEDH card, Finding Cradle. It's a 4-drop, Eldrazi Fungus. It is devoid, notably, so it's not green, really. That says, when you cast this spell, search your library for a land card, put it on the battlefield. And then the kicker is somewhat relevant to exile target land if you pay 1 and a colorless. A lot of the time, if you can't present a win or do something right away, you can exile all their lands and destroy all their artifacts and enchantments, which is still very, very good. And then they have no mana or anything to do. So be on the lookout. Don't forget about kicker hitting cradles too.
Yeah, this is just another, if you squint your eyes, it's a mana neutral creature or a big mana creature that is important for when you're doing your combo line with Speaker. You need something that taps for a lot of mana. So We just have a high density of those types of cards in the deck.
Remembering it's a cast trigger, not an ETB, is very relevant. So please do not creature tutor it in and then forget, and then it does nothing, and you just wasted a 4-drop tutor. Be careful. Also,
Yep.
you can't green suns it. Don't forget it's not green.
You also can't play it with Yevo.
Yeah, which is the most annoying thing about this card. Very sad about that, but it's okay. This is our main win con a lot of the time, and things we're tutoring when we're trying to present a win. Temur Sabertooth is a 4-drop, 4/3 cat that says pay 2 mana. You may return another creature you control to its owner's hand. If you do, Temur Sabertooth gains indestructible until end of turn. And this does about 4 amazing things, in my opinion, all of them being really broken. It giving itself indestructible isn't that relevant, but can be. It being able to use Shang-Chi mana to pay the cost is great. It not targeting what you're bouncing is humongous relevance. Cannot get deflecting swatted. They don't know what you're bouncing until you resolve it, and they might think you're doing something else and then exile the wrong thing or bounce the wrong thing, which is super important. And the fact that all of this is stapled on a big butt is very, very, very great. I could talk a lot about this card, but I'll let you talk about it, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, Sabertooth, it's kind of like all roads lead to Sabertooth once you're trying to present a win. And then it enables you to convert, basically, because you kind of get into a loop where you pick up Symbiote and Speaker, and then that's your route to infinite mana. And then because then you're like, okay, I can pick up all of my creatures as much as I want. You start picking up Shang-Chi, discard it to Speaker, find all the creatures in your deck. And then even just on the fair side, when you don't have the pieces to combo, just being able to pick up your creatures and replay them is extremely powerful. There's no like restriction, like once per turn or anything. So, it just kind of combos with a lot of the things in the deck. I mean, this card was popular with Dockside Extortionist. So if you have anything that's like mana positive over 2, then Sabertooth just makes infinite mana with that, like a Circle of Dreams Druid or potentially like a Secret of Skybreak. There's a lot of things in the deck that'll get you to infinite. But the reason we kind of go through Speaker is because that then gives you a way to convert the infinite mana as well.
Like you were saying, I think the biggest and coolest line of this deck is once you have Temur, Speaker, and infinite mana, you just bounce your Shang-Chi to your hand, discard it to Speaker, and then put it back in command zone so that you can cast it again to bounce again, to tutor again with Speaker bounce. It's a little bit of a weird play pattern most people don't think would see or understand off the rip, right? Like, while you're discarding in, you have to do this stuff like, oh, wait, no, you get it back, and you cast it, and you bounce again. It's like a whole little song and dance, but it's very, very sick, and is the way I'm winning most of the games. I assume same for you, Joe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. This is the essentially best quote-unquote win con that isn't win the game, I would say. This is your breach, right?
Mm-hmm.
We got some other value creatures. We got Voice of Many, which says 4-drop elf 3/3. When it enters, draw a card for each opponent who controls fewer creatures than you, which is almost always 3. I have not yet had it be 2 or 1. It's our harmonize effect on a body on an elf that's creature tutorable.
Yep. So it's exactly like Harmonize. That's what the card is based on, and it being an elf, you can tutor with all your elf tutors, and it's a mini Regal Force, but
yeah,
with more relevant types.
It is unfortunately not as good as Regal Force, but hey, it's only 4 mana. It can only be so good. Wirewood Channeler is another dork. It says add X mana of any one color, where X is the number of L's in play. This is the same as Priest of Titania. It doesn't say you control, but it is 4 mana instead of 2, so it's a little harder to get there and such like that. But it's the same effect. It's just very good dork. Another one of the most tutored cards for me, at least right now, has been Yeva Nature's Herald. It is a 4-drop with Flash 4/4. You may cast green creature spells as though they had Flash. This means you have more agency in your games of, I had to pass my turn because I got silenced, or I can't do anything instant speed, quote unquote, and then all of a sudden you go, cool, I'm winning on top of your win, or your Naws, or your Breach, and they don't expect that a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think you run into some moments in this deck where you've used your Symbiote, you've used your Quirion Ranger, you've tapped your creatures, you've activated all your abilities on your own turn, and then you have to pass turn, and then getting another turn happening allows you to re-symbiote. Okay, I'll pick up my Speaker and recast it because they have Yeva, and then you kind of get to go again because of this card in ways that aren't necessarily intuitive, right?
It doesn't feel like it should work a lot of the time too, because again, you're mono green and you just did everything on your turn and whatever else happened. But then all of a sudden you can pick it all up, do it again. It's kind of like a Final Fortune in that regard to me. Like you're not losing the game if your next turn ends or whatever, but you are getting another turn even if it's not your turn. It's pretty cool. Very, very good card. We talked about it earlier, but Ashaya, a very classic mono green card. It says 5 mana. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of lands you control, and non-token creatures you control are forest lands in addition to the other types. Your board is Cyclonic Rift proof, which is great. Not like the format sees that a lot right now, but still relevant. And goes very, very infinite with so many things like Korean Ranger. There's a lot of other good synergies with now all of your creatures are now dorks because they can tap immediately and are forests, so you make extra mana, stuff like that. And you can pick up other creatures now because they're forests as well. So it does a lot.
Yep.
It does a whole lot.
You can untap your creatures with Arbor Elf and Magus of the Candelabra as well. So
Magus goes quite infinite with Ashaya, and anything that makes 3 or more, or 2 things that make 2 or more. It does so much. Very, very, very busted card. But that's a classic one. That's like one of the mono green cards of all time.
For sure.
Disciple of Freylis is a lot of the times a land on the backside. It's a bolt land MBFC. But the front's pretty relevant. It's also an elf. It says 6 mana for a 3/3. It says when it enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, gain X life and draw X cards, where X is that creature's power. I've done this quite a few times and been able to actually loop my library with this rather than have a speaker on board, because you just sack something like Shang-Chi, recast Shang-Chi, sack Shang-Chi, blah, 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 blah. Draw through your library, gain you as much life as you can. Just a very good utility land.
It's also got a cool synergy with Badgermole Cub, to where if it dies, it comes back on the creature side, and then you get the trigger, and you get another creature in play.
Earthbend is a silly mechanic, and MBSCs are a silly thing. Very, very good. We got Woodland Bellower, which is a lot of the time the tutor you're getting when you have something like Magus of the Order or Natural Order, because it says when it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a non-legendary green creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less, and then put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. This finds your speaker, but gives you another body, or gives you, Circle of Dreams Druid that gives you another body. It can't get dosed, unfortunately, because it's legendary, but many cool synergies with stuff like that. You can get your Eternal Witness back to find your speaker from your graveyard. You can do a lot of smaller stuff too, like something like Wirewood or Korean Ranger. It's kind of a catch-all tutor for 3 or less. Again, it's not legendary, but it just does all of those things and gives you an extra body.
Yeah, it's just another creature tutor for speaker, but then, it's also power forward raider for Fnatic. It can get you card advantage with Duskwatch Recruiter, or like Generous Patron if you have a setup for that. Unfortunately, it says non-legendary, but we still have plenty of utility out of this trigger.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's only like so many tutors we could play. We play all of them. Pretty much every single one.
Yep.
Chancellor of the Tangle is a pretty funny card. It says you reveal this card in your opening hand. It's a pregame action. If you do, at the beginning of your first main phase, add green to your mana pool, which gives you some more explosive early games, some turns. Maybe you go Shang-Chi turn 1 instead of Dorks, because now your turn 2 is a bunch of Dorks that win you the game, or you just get more Dorks out turn 1, or Sylvan Library, or something helpful. It's ramp, and it's also stapled onto a creature, so things like your Survival of the Fittest or your Fauna Shaman still work very well with this. It's also just discard fodder to something like Speaker. A lot of times I've drawn it, and it's been like, oh, well, I didn't draw an amazing card, obviously, but it still does plenty of things. It doesn't have to do everything besides just the pregame.
Yep, it's fast mana that doesn't cost you a card in hand, which is very relevant.
Instead of something like, again, a gemstone pitching you another card and itself, it doesn't actually cost any cards, it just costs being in your hand, which is great. The last creature on this list, and the biggest, chunkiest one, is a Regal Force. It is a 7 mana elemental. It says when it enters, draw a card for each green creature you control. I don't know about you, but my biggest Regal Force ETB so far has been 14.
I haven't gotten that. I think 11 is my biggest, but
this card's very, very good. I think we were on the fence about it for a while, and I don't know if we'd ever cut. I don't know if I would ever cut it personally, but it's just so much. Like, instead of tutoring for a scary thing that they're worried about you winning, just draw 10 cards. Like, even if I don't win immediately, now I probably have some kind of interaction or some other kind of ramp or something to do. Even if I'm close to being tapped out, or now I can kind of churn through more stuff. And 10 cards is an insane amount, or whatever the number is. It's all green creatures, so very very good.
Yeah, in situations where you're like not allowed to search your library and stuff, sometimes you can just get this, with your summoner's
Yeah.
pact or whatever. Or I guess you could search your library, but not
Yeah,
allowed to put
search-
stuff into play. Like I played
Yeah.
against like a Weathered Runestone or a Grafdigger's Cage, where you can find Regal Force and find a bunch of action, and maybe you'll find an answer for it, even if you can't
Yeah.
search directly for the changeling or search directly for a win line.
It's very good. Again, it's like another utility card, but it just draws a ton. This is like a Wheel of Fortune for you that costs mana. So, very good. That's all the creatures. We'll kind of have some more synergy talks with some of the other cards down below, but that's the most part and kind of the main ways you're trying to win the game. Again, almost all of it's speaker, but that's more obvious the more you play it. It's a catch-all. Very, very good. We got 10 sorceries, and all of them tutor creatures except 2, and one of them's a land, and one of them finds a land. We can go over at least the interesting ones like Celestial Reunion, but I don't think I'm gonna go over all the stuff like Finale Devastation. That's very obviously just like a creature tutor. Gets graveyard stuff. Celestial Reunion is a really cool one because it says X and green sorcery. As additional cost to cast this spell, you may choose a creature type and behold 2 creatures of that type. If you don't know, behold says a creature in play you control or in your hand of that type. So you can behold 2 elves if one's in play, one's in your hand, or 2 in play, or 2 in hand, or whatever it is. Search your library for a creature card with a mana value X or less. Put it in your hand, then shuffle. But if the spell's additional cost was paid, and the revealed card is the chosen type, put that card onto the battlefield instead of into your hand. So very, very cool. It's kind of like a Green Sun Zenith that doesn't have to be a green creature, as long as you meet the requirements of the Behold and you tutor for that style of card, it goes right into the battlefield, and if not, it still goes in your hand. So there's like synergies with both ways. Sometimes you want things in your hand, sometimes you want them on the battlefield. It's a very cool card that most decks aren't able to play, but we can afford to.
Yeah, just with how much elves we're playing and how our main tutor target is an elf, that checks that box. And then it's also kind of a cheap tutor if you want to find like your Magus of the Candelabra or like your Wirewood Symbiote. It's just 2 mana to put it in your hand.
Yep. And then only 1 to cast or whatever it is. It's still very, very good, right? Green Sun Zenith, very classic green tutor. Puts a green creature into play, X or less. Super easy, shuffles it. Sylvan Tutor is the same thing as Worldly Tutor, but as a sorcery. So search your library for a creature card, reveal it, put it on top. Another very basic one. Same with Finale, Devastation, and Rhythm. Rhythm is just 2 tutors in 1 because you get to harmonize it again. It doesn't get stuff from the graveyard. These are basic, these are easy. Same with Sylvan Scrying. This is the land tutor of the sorceries. Almost always getting Gaia's Cradle. Sometimes I'm tutoring Yavimaya or E-Zone, but like pretty infrequently. The density you want the Cradle to be able to untap with something like Speaker or just have a Cradle because you have so many creatures in play is very often, and another tutor for it feels phenomenal.
Yep. Cradle's one of the best cards in the deck. I'm sure that's a surprise to no one. But it's worth playing Sylvan Scrying.
In our 50 creature deck? What do you mean, Joe? What do you mean? Ecological Appreciation is a really cool one that I think we were kind of on the fence on at first. I think I'm pretty convinced on now. It says X2 green. Search your library and graveyard for up to 4 creature cards with different names that have mana value X or less and reveal them. An opponent chooses 2. You shuffle those 2 into your library and put the rest on the battlefield. So not only do you not lose them, kind of like how Gifts Ungiven does, it puts them in your graveyard, this card shuffles them back in so they're still in your deck for utility. Also, notably, it does exile stuff, but it also notably says your opponent picks 2, and then those 2 get shuffled in. So I'm really hoping to catch someone on this where I'm like, all right, which 2 are you picking? And they're like, these 2, which is the 2 they don't want me to have. And then those get shuffled in, and they give me the 2 they didn't want me to have.
Right.
Because it's worded so poorly. And no other real like cards do this, I feel like. I think they're always like, pick a card, or pick these 2 cards, and then those go to your hand or something. Like kind of like Fact or Fiction or whatever, right? But this one just says,
yeah,
the 2 you pick go away.
Yeah, the chosen ones leave.
Super strange. Very, very good. Anytime you're resolving this for 3 or 4, I think you're winning the game almost immediately, if not immediately, depending on the board state and your your hand, how much mana you have available, but does so much, and also shuffles things back from graveyard into play or into play or your deck. So that's also very relevant.
Yeah, sometimes X is 1 can be good too, but
Sometimes
you're really
that
trying to do
wins
it
as
for X
well.
is 3.
Yeah. It's a lot easier the higher you go, but even on a low, 1 or 2, you can pretty easily present a win, I feel like. Very classic, another tutor, Eldritch Evolution, sack a creature, X or less for X is 2 plus the sacrifice creature's mana value, and then it exiles itself. Super basic. Same with natural order, sack a green creature, tutor any green creature into play. This is kind of the same thing we're saying with the Woodland Bellower being very good. Because you can get something else you still want, but you get another body out of it. It also can get something like Regal Force, or just the speaker itself if you've already tutored the Woodland Bellower or something. But it's a docent into play, it does so much. They're also utility, but this is getting any green creature is pretty good for 4 mana.
Yep. Worth the extra
Turn
cost.
Timber, oh, yeah, besides
You're good.
attacking a creature, obviously. Turn Timber is mostly a land, but it does just say 7 mana, look at top 7, put a creature into play. Good enough for me.
Yep. Roll the dice.
Oh, absolutely. This one's pretty basic, though. We got even more tutors, Joe. You want to go over our instance here?
Yeah, sure. So we have Summoner's Pact. A lot of these are cEDH staples at this point. So yeah, it's green, costs 0. Search your library for a green creature card, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle. At the beginning of your next upkeep, you have to pay 2 green. If you don't, you lose the game. Yeah, so this is just another way to tutor something to hand. And then once this resolved, you get to cast your creature spell, which is harder to interact with. I've noticed this one resolves more often for some reason because people are just like, yeah,
Well,
Summer's
you'll have to
back.
pay a pact.
You're gonna have to
You
pay,
have to pay a
right?
pact,
But
Joe.
yeah, you're just winning the game. Almost your whole deck is green creatures, so there's no real drawback there. Next, we have Crop Rotation, which is another way to get Cradle into play, potentially E-Zone from the top rope. Maybe Dryad Arbor in rare cases, but
True.
it's pretty standard. It's the most like mental misstepable card in the deck, but it's worth it. Just like, okay, I'll just get basic forest. That's fine.
Yeah, man. Like, hey, don't blow me out. I don't want to get strip mined for no reason. Stop that.
Yeah, so Legolas's Quick Reflexes, one of the most powerful green cards because it is 1 mana. It's an instant, it has split second, so as long as it's on the stack, players can't cast spells or activate abilities except for mana abilities. It untaps target creature, and then until end of turn, that creature gains hexproof. Also reach, and when it becomes tapped, it deals damage equal to its power to up to 1 target creature. So most of the creature untappers the non-creature based creature untappers have moved out of the deck, but this one is just so good at what it does. It's, it gives protection, it gives you some removal, it also can be a ritual. It's just, a lot of utility, so makes the cut. It's also kind of crucial to our win line where we're trying to eliminate everyone else's creatures. So once we can untap our creatures infinitely, we can just wipe the board once we've cast the Legolas's Quick Reflexes. Next is Rolly Tutor, another staple. 1 green mana instant, search your library for a creature card, reveal it, shuffle, put it on top. Similar to Sylvan Tutor. We're just looking for speaker, other things to put on top. Next is Once Upon a Time, which is a very fun card. It's 1 green instant. It says, if this spell is the first spell you've cast this game, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. So you can even cast this, if you're seat 4 and seat 1 goes turn 1, Mr. Primori, you're just like, in response, Once Upon a Time. It
Let me
says,
see what I'm gonna draw.
yeah, look at the top 5 cards of your library, reveal a creature or land from among them, put it into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So this kind of just, in your opening hand, is like a wild card where it can find a land sometimes, it can find action sometimes. It gives you a lot of looks at what your hand is missing.
It's like a serum powder, but not exiling everything, and still is just castable 2-drop.
Yeah,
So
and when you
fine.
find one of your most high impact cards, if your hand was already keepable when you're rolling the dice on this, and you find one of your best cards, it really feels amazing.
Drawing that cradle off of it, and you're like, oh, this makes his head so much better.
Exactly.
Give me that cradle.
Next up is Archdruid's Charm, green instant, so 3 mana. It says choose 1, either search your library for a creature or land card, reveal it, put it on the battlefield if it's a land, tapped, Otherwise, put it in your hand, then shuffle. The second option is put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control. It deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control, so a fight spell. Third option is exile target artifact or enchantment. So this is a kind of expensive creature tutor, but it also has a fight spell and a disenchant all stapled onto it. It's kind of just a slam dunk utility card in the deck.
Also, notably, like you were saying earlier, if there's something like a Grafdigger's Cage or Weathered Runestone, this puts the creature in hand, so you don't have to waste a battlefield tutor doing nothing. This means you can like cast something like a so like Myco Spawn or something you couldn't get into play otherwise. Very, very good.
Right. Or you're chopping changeling to get that thing out of here.
True.
Next, one of the best green cards, I would say, Court of Calling, X green, 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 instant. It has Convoke, which means your creatures can help you cast it, even the ones that have summoning sickness, even though it doesn't happen a lot in this deck. So you can tap creatures to help pay for it, and you search your library for a creature card with mana value X or less, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle.
Yeah. Very, very good.
And yeah, last one is Shared Summons, which is 3 green, green, 5 mana instant. Search your library for up to 2 creature cards with different names. Reveal them, put them in your hand, then shuffle. So these little higher end instant speed ones can come up. If you have enough mana, you Shared Summons for Yeva and something you want to play with Yeva, and you get to enable flash and then flash in your thing. All at instant speed.
Good. It's what I call our Adnos, right? Like this is your 5 mana, but it gets everything you'd ever want at instant speed, and now you can play at instant speed too with something like Gava. Very, very good. Like I was saying earlier, we don't play very many artifacts. We are an oof deck. They're just kind of the necessary ones. Just Chromux, Lotus Petal, Mox Amber, Mana Vault, Soul Ring. All just early ramp gets us closer to a turn 2, turn 3 win, and something like Amber's pretty free when we very quickly get our commander down. It's another dork that doesn't give us a body. Soul Ring's broken, Mana Vault's pretty broken, Petal's free, and then Chromux is just like another green source. Very, very good.
Yeah, not playing Mox Diamond just because we don't always have that extra land.
Yeah. The real problem with the deck, I think, is hitting all the lands, but sometimes I don't need them, so it's all good. 3 enchantments, all of which are very, very good. We got Survival of the Fittest, which we talked about earlier. Same thing as Fauna Shaman, but you don't have to tap it. Pay green, discard a creature card, tutor any creature card, put it in your hand. You can do this multiple times, chain things like we were saying earlier as well. The Fanatic of Ronus, you tutor the Fanatic the first time, and then you discard the Fanatic, and you get a different creature that you actually wanted. Now you've made more mana, and you could potentially just win off of that and the speaker. Very helpful tutor. And when there's 49 other creatures in the deck, it's very easy to see how good this card can be. Summon Library is something that's been phenomenal for me, especially I don't like this card generally. I think our options in mono green make it very much a necessity. It says beginning of your draw step, you may draw 2 additional cards. If you do, choose 2 cards in your hand drawn this turn. For each of those cards, pay 4 life or put it back on top. I'm almost always just paying 8 and drawing the 2 cards. I have almost 0 reason to not. I don't care about my total in any other regard, and it's not like anyone can really swing at us very often. Like, I got so many blockers, big dog. You want to swing that Crom at me? Yeah, that's fine. Anything else? It probably not getting in.
This is another card that's like good on a low mulligan, where you would think of these hyperlinear turbo decks as being like bad on low mulligans without blue cards and anything tutors. Whereas Sylvan, we have so much redundancy that 2 triggers off Sylvan. It's kind of like we kept a 7.
Exactly. Very, very helpful. The last and definitely not the least of the enchantments, Leyline of Abundance. It says it's a pregame. If it's in your opening hand, you may begin it with on the field. Whenever you tap a creature for mana, add an additional green. It's the same thing that Badgermole Cub says, but it's a pregame. And again, makes our Shang-Chi also add green mana, which is super relevant. All of your dorks tap for 2 mana. Your Dryad Arbor even adds 2 mana. It's, I think, one of the best cards in this deck, especially one that isn't a creature. I'm casting it so often if it's on my opener and I draw it. Like, phenomenal card.
The card you most want in your opening hand, probably.
Absolutely. I think this, by far, and before anything else, like this and Cradle are my 2 cards I want in every opener ever. And it's still this over Cradle.
Yeah, exactly. It's that good.
Yeah. We've got a pretty small land count, and a lot of them are forests. There's not much utility here, but we'll go over it pretty quickly. Ancient Tomb, very classic, 2 mana for 1 land drop, just good. Sage is very utility driven, can blow up things like, a Damping Sphere or a Craftigger's Cage or a Wet Rock or a Rhystic Steady or Smothering Tithe. Whatever it may be, it gets rid of it, gives them another basic land, and it's also just a land you can play that adds green. Very, very good. City of the Traders, essentially the same as Ancient Tomb, but just doesn't take you life. It sacrifices if you play another land. It's early ramp. It's great. It's 2 mana on 1 land. Dryad Arbor is the thing I'm finding most every single time and almost every single game, because you can fetch it into play. And knowing that Shang-Chi gives it the ability to tap immediately, the only upside, it's only upside, right? Like, instead of tutoring a basic forest, you just tutor a Dryad Arbor. Very, very, very good.
Yep.
Dryad Arbor, another one of the best lands in the deck. It's this and Cradle pretty much exclusively, especially when you have something like a Leyline of Abundance or a Badgermole Cub, and then instead of tutoring a mana, you tutor 2 mana.
Yeah.
Very, very good.
It's awesome. And it's every time you fetch it and tap it, people like double take. And they're like,
Yep.
oh, right. Yeah, like Shang-Chi, like, let's do
Shang-Chi.
that.
I had to do it myself the first few times we started playing, and I was like, yeah, I guess I'm getting a basic. Wait, I'm not getting a basic. What am I talking about? Give me an extra land creature. Give me that. That's free. Yeah, super phenomenal. Emergent Zone we talked a little bit about earlier. It gives you opportunities to win on top of people. Something like Crop Rotation or the Archer's Charm can put it into play. Same with Elvish Reclaimer. You have a lot of options and ways to untap it, so it's pretty easy. Being able to cast all of your spells at instant speed rather than just something like green creatures with Yeva is very relevant, so always be aware that you may need a Emergent Zone in certain situations. It's also just good utility. It's a colorless land that's whatever, but it helps a lot.
Yeah, it gives us access to something we don't have a lot of in the deck, which is instant speed. So
Exactly. It can come out of nowhere too. We're on 9 basic forests. We've I thought about adding a 10th, and then we talked about it a little bit. The land count doesn't feel low for what we're doing, but I think the density of basics, especially just forests you need in this deck, is pretty high. Things, especially like the Quirion Ranger and some other small synergies with it, make the forest count you just need very high. It feels very consistent, very good though so far.
Yep. It's nice to have a basic forest in your hand.
It
always feels
can't
good.
hurt. Can't hurt. Guy's Cradle, we've talked about it so much. It's just that good. We don't need to go too deep into it. We're a 50 creature deck.
Everyone
Really
knows this
it's
card.
good. Yeah. Gemstone, another classic, just, early ramp, play it in your pregame or just a basic land, super easy. Hash Up Oasis is an interesting one. It says it's a desert that either adds colorless or pay a life, add green to your mana pool, and then the third ability says pay 1 green, tap, sacrifice a desert, which it's notably the only desert, so it just attacks itself. Target creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn. Activate this ability only anytime you could cast a sorcery. Very relevant that it's sorcery speed, but it buffing any of your creatures means something like Fanatic of Ronos is better. There's a card we aren't playing right now that is also very good, Arbor Adherent. Similar effect that can make it more positive and win you the game with something like Formidable Speaker. Just untapping that creature, making it add more mana is very relevant. It's the only thing I've thought about cutting as a land because it's not a forest, but it's still pretty good. I don't think we are quite there cutting it.
Yeah, we're on the fence, but it is just a land that taps for green, so it's pretty low opportunity cost.
It can only be so bad. The 1 life never matters. Like, even then, it's just
Right.
tapping for colorless, right? So, the last of the real utility lands here is Hickory Woodlot. Enters tapped, but adds with 2 depletion counters on it. And then when you tap it, say remove a depletion counter from it, add 2 green mana instead of 1. And then when there's no depletion counters, sacrifice it. It's your turn 1 play when you have it, because then turn 2 you do Shang-Chi and other shenanigans, bunch of dorks, keep chaining things, maybe, a 3-drop on turn 2 instead of not having a 3-drop on turn 2. The good thing about having all your dorks having haste is that you can just go this, pass, and then turn to Shang-Chi, play dork, play dork, play dork, play dork, because they can all chain themselves to the next. So it doesn't actually hurt this deck very much playing the 1 tap land.
Yeah.
The rest are just fetches, all the green fetches because I can find Dryad Arbor, and the rest still just find forests, so that's great. And last but not least, we've got Yabi Maya, Cradle of Growth. Very good synergies here with, like we talked about, like Arbor Elf, or your Cradle being a forest, can be bounced to something like Quirion Ranger, played again for land for turn. very helpful.
Yeah,
It's
even
just a good land.
sometimes bouncing your Ancient Tomb and replaying it is also good. You just
Exactly.
need that
Very,
extra
very good.
colorless mana is
I've
relevant.
bounced my Boseiju with him and used the Boseiju. Like there are so many
Yeah, for
synergies with this
sure.
card. Very, very good. Um, Again, it's just another basic forest, but it's better and means if there's an oppo, you can tap your fetch lands or something like that. So
Sure.
it does a lot. That is the pretty basic breakdown of the deck. I forgot to mention invasion. Oopsies. But yeah, it's just another creature tutor. You can flip it for another body, which is pretty relevant if you have the attackers. So don't
Yeah,
forget that.
once you're going on the beats plan, it makes all your stuff
Oh,
essentially unblockable.
oh yeah, and you get an 8/8 with reach. Oh, that's great. Absolutely phenomenal. We've been playtesting the deck for about a month now, Joe. Maybe a little longer.
Yep.
And it's come together a lot in the last, especially few weeks. I think we've made a lot of improvements, cut things that felt a little slow, added things that we were testing that I think feel better. It's been
Yeah.
pretty consistent too.
At this point, it's getting to where any cut we make is really hard because it feels like every card in the deck fills a role and is doing it efficiently. So we're basically happy with this 100 cards at the moment, and little tweaks. It's all just kind of small percentage points we're trying to adjust for.
I think, like I was saying earlier, like the hash up for a forest, like that's like the thing I'm considering most right now, and it's like, oh, that's so minimal, like whatever. The general like 95 cards feel very perfect though.
Sorry if you can hear the dogs barking in the background.
You're all good.
But yeah, I think sorry.
No rush.
Yeah, I think that other lists of Shang-Chi we've seen don't necessarily share a lot of our cards, or there's a lot of differences. But with the way that we're kind of trying to maximize speaker lines, everything here makes sense.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Again, it's very consistent turn 3 in my experiences. I think the same for you. It can turn 2 decently often, just a little harder without something like the Leyline of Abundance or a Badgermole Cub. But it could definitely still do so. So don't count it out. I think this deck is up and coming very, very, very strong. We'll see it at the Invitational, at least from me, maybe from Joe as well. We'll see when the video comes out.
For sure.
But yeah, I think that's all for today. Anything you want to say or shout out, Joe? Thank you for coming on as always.
No, I think I'm just glad to see another monocolor commander enter the format that seems like it actually has legs. And this is just like a different play style that feels kind of anti-meta in a way where you would think Cabbage Merchant is almost like the slot meta to the max.
Yeah.
And kind of preying on that. This is like, all right, we're trying to play fast, low to the ground, creature-based strategy that kind of goes underneath the slot, where it's just like, if you have sudden substitution in your hand, it's not going to help you here, buddy. So I think that's what makes it an interesting choice for the Invitational, which is a meta-defining tournament, and we're expecting people to play a lot of meta decks. That's what makes this appealing, because we're going to be adjusting for Ristic Study, Necropotence, Smothering Tithe, Gaming, whereas we're like trying to resolve our Formidable Speaker and hoping that people aren't ready for it.
There's so few actual creature counters in the format right now. That was another big part of it for us. It was just like they have Pact of Negation, Force of Will, and a Mind Break if I've cast 3 spells. Like realistically, other than that, it's just like weird silences or deflecting swat, one of my abilities or something. None of the rest of their spells really matter. So,
Disrupting Shoal, maybe.
Oh, Disrupting Shoal is another creature counter, yeah. But very, very few options, right? Like that's 4 counter spells that actually matter. Because there's so many creature-focused cards, even on the creature tutors, if those get countered, which are a lot easier to deal with. The deck is still very resilient, does so much even with them countering our stuff. Again, you can still just go to beats and kill someone fairly often. I've done it quite a few times now. It's very, very opportune, and you have so many options. So it's toolboxy.
Yeah, no, it feels like it has a seat at the table for sure.
Absolutely. That's why I'm bringing it at the table. I don't know if it's good to have it, but I'm forcing it in.
Yeah, hopefully we can prove that it's strong. But Even if we crash and burn, I think this deck is still extremely viable.
I had a great time this season regardless, and playing a random deck of the envy feels even better. I kind of like that more. That's what I want to do all of the time.
Yeah, I hear you.
But all right, well, thank you for joining us, Joe. That was our little deck tech and informational video about Shang-Chi. Where can we find you, Joe? On Twitter, on YouTube, on anywhere?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter and all the platforms at the most Joe, including Discord. Feel free to message me about this deck or any other deck I've played. Also, just want to shout out 504 MTG, which is a company I co-own. If you want to buy some singles, we're on TCG Player. We also have a website you can go to. And we also are hosting tournaments. So we're trying to grow the tournament scene down here in New Orleans. Hopefully we can do so.
That's awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Shout out
on.
Anthony. Big dubs to Anthony.
Shout out Anthony. Hell yeah.
That's all we've got today. Thank you guys for joining us, and have a great day.
Thanks so much.
Bye.